What is up, everyone? Welcome into ADC Sports Dallas Primetime on this Thursday night. It's already Thursday. Tonight, we will talk about some breakout candidate players for the Dallas Cowboys in 2022. This was not actually planned, but someone over the course of the week, I believe it was Matthew, came up with this question in the super chat. Who were your breakout candidate players of the year? And I thought that it was a topic worth discussing more in depth. So that's what we're doing tonight. We broke it down into three separate categories of players that could break out in 2022, and we'll get into them all as we conclude the primetime week for this particular week. We are already in the 18th of May, so we're almost done with what to me is one of the toughest months for a football fan all around, just because there's little stuff going around. May and June months for a football fan. So we'll close it out in good fashion this week, and we'll get into some of these breakout candidates. Let me shout out some of you guys over in the chat. Michael Doris says, how's it going? How's it going tonight? It's Little Friday. I like that term. I like calling Thursdays Little Fridays. What is up, Tommy? Louis over at Facebook, Kenneth Fraser as well, checking in on Facebook. What is up, Stephen White? Thank you for tuning into the show. As always, Joe watching from Italy, Italia. What is up, everyone? Thank you for being here. Hit the like button, share the stream, and as always, remember to let your friends know about ADC Sports Dallas Primetime. Without any further ado, let's kick this one off now that more of us are here. Let's get this show started officially. Here we go. What is up, everyone? Welcome into ADC Sports Dallas Primetime on this Thursday night. I'm your host, Mauricio Rodríguez, streaming with you live every Sunday through Thursday night around this time, 8 p.m. Central. Welcome to the show. We're ready to conclude the week with some good Cowboys content. As always, Primetime brought to you by our friends over at freemanhyundai.com. We will talk more about them and the ride of the week in a few moments here on the show. And as always, reminding you that for more Cowboys content and more Dallas Mavericks content, you can check out adcsports.com/Dallas. Tonight, we will get into a particular question that someone brought up to the attention of the ADC Sports Primetime chat. I believe it was Matthew. And he asked, via a donation and question, he asked, who are your breakout candidate players of the year? And I thought that it was a very interesting question. We kind of mentioned some names here and there, but I thought that it deserved a full episode on Primetime. So that's what we're doing tonight. And I broke it down into three categories: the obvious ones, the two players to watch as well, and a couple of under the radar candidates. And of course, we'll open up the chat so you guys can bring your name, put your names in as well. Some players that you believe are worth watching as we head into the 2022 regular season. What is up, everyone? Thank you to Joe Mesa who's tuning in. Ryan Doyle says, I see you walking with a little swag since you passed your test. Congrats, buddy. Thank you to Ryan. I don't know about the little swag, but I do feel a little bit, relieved maybe. Relaxing, as Michael's Doris says over here. We are relaxed already. Bruce says, I'm trying to get to the weekend so I can chill too. What is up, Hector? Bringing the attention to my Spanish show every Friday. You can check it out over at Primero Cowboys. Thank you to Hector for tuning into Primetime as well. And thank you. Let's get this one started. Let's get into some of these players. We will talk breakout candidates for 2022. And I believe that it's only fair to start with the obvious ones. We can get those out of the way, and maybe we can get into what's to me the more intriguing part of the show once we get into some of the different names. Because by now you know that linebacker Jabril Cox is one of the biggest breakout candidate players for the Dallas Cowboys. We're talking about a guy that by default will have a chance to prove Cowboys Nation what he is made of. 4th-round draft pick in 2021. Now he gets the chance to not only be a starter linebacker for the Dallas Cowboys, but perhaps the full-time number one linebacker in Dallas. And what I mean by full-time, that I'm basically excluding Micah Parsons from the conversation, because we know that Micah is the best linebacker on the team, but we also know that a lot of the time he will be assigned as an edge rusher. So knowing that, Jabril Cox might be your number one full-time 3-down off-ball linebacker. And of course, there were some concerns when he came out of the NFL draft because of the level of competition. Only the one season at LSU. He was in the FCS before. A lot of people have questioned his experience, but we know that he is an athlete. And we know that Dan Quinn's vision for the Cowboys defense has revolved around that. Freak athletic players. And we've seen all of the hybrid roles by now. And Jabril Cox, if we're talking breakout players, you would have to agree with me maybe that even or either he's number one on the list or he is number 2 on that list. I would say Jabril Cox is definitely the number one prospect. Not prospect. Prospect is not the word. Breakout candidate to bring up. Simi wants is Joey Vela. I will spoil you a little bit. Simi Fehoko is not one of my breakout candidate players. But by the way, and Kennedy's saying Cox should be, he's earned it. Talking about his starter, Tommy 915. I see your comment. I'm not reading that though. Charlene Evans was mentioning already, the Cowboys linebacker, of course. He is an obvious one. He is the number one obvious breakout candidate player for the Dallas Cowboys. So actually, I'm going to change up the question that I had planned for you a little bit. I'm going to change it up because the question for you guys, who's your Cowboys' biggest breakout candidate for 2022? But let's make it a rule that we cannot say Jabril Cox. Who's your Cowboys' biggest breakout candidate for 2022 other than Jabril Cox? Let me know your answers in the chat. And while you do that, and before I give you my number 2 obvious breakout player of the year for the Cowboys, let me talk to you about our friends over at FreemanHyundai.com, because the ride of the week is the new Hyundai Sonata that starts at $26,739, miles per gallon capacity of 28 in the city, goes up to 38 in the highway, 2 front LCD monitors, and make sure that you go into the FreemanHyundai.com website so you can check out the interior pictures of the car, the outside pictures of it, and you can appreciate the 2 front LCD monitors for real. Apple CarPlay / Android Auto, and electric stability control. Very cool feature for the 2022 Hyundai Sonata, which you can check out on FreemanHyundai.com, a family-owned business for over 65 years. And of course, you get A+ customer service plus a wide range of new Hyundai vehicles. Once more, that is FreemanHyundai.com. Let's see some of your answers here. Malik Hooker says Tommy 915. Michael as well goes with Malik Hooker. Gregory says Tolbert. Joe Mesa wants to trip me into a trap there. Eric Thomas goes with Kelvin Joseph. Gilbert goes with CeeDee Lamb. Kenneth Fraser also with CeeDee Lamb. Lamb is an interesting answer. I don't hate it. I don't disagree with it. I didn't go with CeeDee Lamb just because I feel that we are a little bit past that. I think that 2020 and 2021, we've seen CeeDee Lamb burst into the scene pretty quickly. However, it is a fair answer because he will break out potentially as a number 1 wide receiver for the Cowboys, which is a role that he has not had to fill necessarily up to this point. But that's the reason why I skipped CeeDee Lamb from these rankings. Now, I also saw a comment before we actually went live, and I'm seeing some rookie names out here. I've seen Jalen Tolbert. I saw someone say, do you think Devin Harper is one of the breakout players? I also established a rule for myself that I couldn't go with any rookie. I am excited about the Cowboys rookie class. I think that Jalen Tolbert can be a contributor on day one. I think that Sam Williams could very well surprise us under a new role with Dan Quinn. There are a lot of players that you could see breaking out for Dallas early among the rookies. However, I didn't include them on tonight's show. So for breakout players, I'm going with veterans, or at least second year players for the Dallas Cowboys. So number one on the list was Jabril Cox. And I think that the number two player that you need to bring up as a candidate, I agree with Eric Thomas here. I got to go with Kelvin Joseph. And we know about the situation. We don't know if he will be on the roster come September, but we've addressed this before on the show. He is still on it. And that's difficult to ignore. The fact that Joseph is still working out with the Cowboys. Mike McCarthy is still talking about Joseph. The front office is also discussing Joseph. And not only that, but talking about how good he's been working out, how good of an offseason he's been having. So as of today, Thursday, May 19th, I cannot tell you with confidence that Kelvin Joseph will not be a Cowboy for the 2022 season. And as such, I feel forced to include Kelvin Joseph just because of the skill set that he brings to the table. Man-to-man coverage, press skills that you know that Dan Quinn is going to love, as the Cowboys were one of the teams to play the most cover one man-to-man coverage in the entire NFL. And it does seem to me like he is one injury away to become a full-time starter for the Cowboys. That is, if he doesn't beat Anthony Brown for the job during training camp. Kelvin Joseph has already kind of shown us that talent-wise, he can do it. He can go out there and he can guard some of the best receivers in the NFL, probably. Although we have not seen him with that kind of test yet, but we have seen him excel at the limited opportunities that he was given in 2021. So talking about his talent, talking about what we've seen on the field from Kelvin Joseph, he is sure as heck one of the breakout candidates for the Cowboys. Although he comes with a huge, massive asterisk. And it's weird. I was thinking about the entire Cowboys offseason earlier today, actually, as I was getting this show ready. And of course, you start thinking about some of the departures, and I got to thinking about Lyle Collins, is what I'm getting at. And it's super weird that the Cowboys kind of punished Lyle Collins for the entire, bribing the NFL official thing with the marijuana thing, and the fact that it appeared as if the Cowboys were grounding him when they benched him for Terence Steele. And yet Kelvin Joseph, who was admittedly in a car from which fatal shots were fired, is still on the Cowboys roster. Such a weird situation in Dallas on that front. And I know we don't have all of the information, and, there are a lot of debates going around this thing. But it sure as heck is weird when you compare it to that. And it might be a dumb comparison, but the Cowboys, at least, they made us understand, or they made us think, that they were benching Lyle Collins as some sort of punishment for what he was doing off the field, which is, of course, not even close to being comparable with what's going on with Kelvin Joseph in terms of severity. Although bribing an NFL officer does seem a pretty dumb thing to do, it just doesn't compare. It's not even on the same conversation as what happened with Kelvin Joseph. Now, Tommy915 says, it takes time, Mo. They will get him by the start of the season. That's what they do. And I understand this notion, but also I'm not sure that I can subscribe entirely to it. It might take time and everything, but arrests have been made. Number one, that's a number one big deal. And I'm not a lawyer, but at least we know that that's happened. And one thing is to keep him on the team, keep him working out. And a whole other different thing is praising his workout and saying that he's been having a good offseason for your team. All of that, and they might be little things, and I might be making too much out of it, but it sure as heck feels weird. And I cannot be confident in telling you that they will get him before the season, whether it's an NFL suspension, which seems like the most likely outcome as well for this, but talking about what the Cowboys are doing specifically. Will they cut him or not? And if there is a suspension, what is it going to look like? Because it's such a specific thing, right? They might suspend him for a few games as King Ken. They might suspend him for the entire season. They might, I don't know. There's a lot of things that can go on with the Kelvin Joseph situation. But if he finds his way onto the playing field at all in 2022, I believe we have to bring him up as a potential breakout candidate. Now, let's move on into not necessarily a under the radar player yet, but just some of the guys that might get overlooked because of Kelvin Joseph, because of Jabril Cox, when we're talking breakout candidates. So 2 names to watch. And I need to start with defensive tackle Osa Odighizuwa. Someone already mentioned him in the chat, I believe. Thank you for tuning in, by the way. A reminder to hit the like button and share the stream. We are live every Sunday through Thursday night at 8 p.m. Central here on ADC Sports Dallas Primetime. Osa Odighizuwa has to be another of the biggest breakout candidate players. How about this statistic from Pro Football Focus on him being the 4th most, the defensive tackle among rookies with the 4th most pressures, and he played in 5 fewer games than the defensive tackle that ended at number 1, and he had 3 fewer games at number 2 and number 3 on the list. Osa Odighizuwa is definitely a player to watch, and he might have a bigger role at tree technique. And it will be interesting because maybe you just want to see a little bit more consistency from Osa, but we've seen all of the potential. We've seen all of the upside with Osa, and he was perhaps after Micah Parsons, you could argue at this point, he was the biggest hit for Dallas in the 2021 NFL draft. Of course, we have not seen much from Kelvin Joseph because he didn't get the chance to play a lot last year. But Osa was pretty impressive and I believe exceeded most of Cowboys Nation's expectations. Now, Bruce brings up a good question here. What about Neville Gallimore? Interesting. I wouldn't have thought that Gallimore was a candidate to be a breakout player of the year just because he's been around for a while already. But these kind of go hand in hand. Osa, you cannot rule out, as much as I like Gallimore myself, you cannot rule out that the possibility of Osa finishing the season as a tree technique with the most snaps. I cannot rule that out at this point because the flashes, as Michael is saying in YouTube, the flashes that we saw out of Osa, the 3rd round pick for 2021, were more than impressive. More than impressive. I could definitely see him beating Neville Gallimore for a bigger role at some point of the season. And I like Neville Gallimore a lot. Let's see. King Ken says, yeah, reports are bigger. Rookie wall did hit him, says King Ken. John Stanley says, I heard he came in bigger and stronger, ready to play. It will help us at tackles, so hope it's a good thing. I agree, especially when you are a defense concerned with improving your performance versus the run, because you finished 20th in the NFL versus the run according to EPA per play. Joey Bella says, no, Jerry likes him some bad dudes, and we'll probably get him for cheap, I believe. I don't know if that's on Kelvin Joseph. His breakout was going to be last year, says King Ken, but the arm injury took that away. And we might get a polished version of Osa in 2022. Maybe cleaning up a little bit of the consistency things, pad level and all of that, and you're talking about a major threat and force on the defensive side of the ball right there. I think that Tristan Hill will be cut, says Michael. Hey, we kind of thought that last year as well. I really don't know what to make out of Tristan Hill, but there are some dudes on that defensive tackle room that will not make it easy for him. And that's including, of course, Osa and Neville Gallimore themselves. I don't know what the future holds for Hill, because Michael says Hill does not have any sponsors in the building anymore. And although I agree, I think that was the same situation for him last year, wasn't it? And he still made it to the team. And there are some things to like about Hill. But if he does make it, you're assuming that it will be on a small role for the Cowboys. Here's another one, and here's another one that I am a little bit surprised that we have not discussed all that much as a fan base over the last few months. But another breakout candidate player to watch, and I believe he is eligible. Maybe some will disagree on this, but how about offensive tackle Terence Steele? Because we have seen what he can do on the field, yet he's always being caught up in this weird situation in which he is not named the full-time starter because of Lyle Collins. For a moment, he was the backup, and then they benched Lyle Collins, and then it was Collins again. At some point, just to illustrate how crazy the storyline around the Cowboys offensive tackle position was, at some point, it was reported that both Terence Steele and Lyle Collins were expected to play at Washington. Now, I know there will be some disagreement as to whether or not he already broke out in 2021. And I understand that. And actually, we got some comments on that. Stephen White says he had a breakout year last year. And Tommy says he already broke out, Mo. And yet he didn't finish the season as the starter. And he also saw some time on the left side. And it wasn't perfect. You understand why we are maybe high on Terence Steele, an undrafted free agent. We've seen what he can do. But what I'm talking here is a season in which you don't see the struggles on the left side because he doesn't play over there, because now he will be a full-time starting tackle on the right side. Now he has the green light, 100%. You are the guy. Can he take that game to another level? You know where I stand on this conversation. I love what Terence Steele has done for the Cowboys. I love the upside on this guy. I'm super surprised, as all of us were, at his performance from 2021. But I do firmly believe that Lyle Collins was a better player, a better right tackle. Can he have a season in which he kills that storyline? That's what I'm talking about when I talk about a breakout season for Terence Steele. Although I will admit it was already sort of a breakout season in 2021. But I wanted to bring it up because I believe he needs to, he could, not needs to, he could have, just like he improved massively and drastically from 2020 to 2021, maybe he can do that for the second year, right? In the NFL. Not second year, the third year in the NFL. But I'm talking about the second leap in his career. We should have never cut Lyle Collins, says Ryan Doyle. It's done, though. It's done. And maybe Terence Steele has a sort of season so that Ryan doesn't feel that way and I don't feel that way. Basically what I'm trying to say. And you're assuming that could happen. That could very well happen now that he is 100% the guy. He will get the first team reps throughout the offseason. He will not be dealing with the uncertainty that he dealt with in 2021. Now we know that he is it. Now we know that he is it. Stephen White says Nashawn Wright too. The whole freaking team. And you know why? There are a lot of young players on the Cowboys. And it's some sort of uncertainty on that front. Because on one side, you have the promise, you have the upside, the optimism of some of these young players breaking out. And yet at the same time, not all of them will. Now, Sean Wright for sure is a breakout candidate player. I think that the biggest question with Wright is how far along is he in his progress? And number two, how much opportunity will he actually have to play defense in 2022? So far, we know that he's not that high on the depth chart. There are at least 4 guys above him, including Kelvin Joseph, while he remains on the team. Of course, big question. Big question. Edward says, Micah MVP this season for the defense. Hey, I don't think you will get a lot of disagreement there, Edward. It's either Micah or DeMarcus Lawrence, right? Those 2 guys are going to lead the Cowboys defense, fortunately, into some special stuff. The Prince, the Prince saying, you suck. And yet, the engagement is there. The comment is there. Your valuable time, the biggest asset, my man. Thank you for it. Eagles Sox Aries. I think that Versashi's out here representing Eagles Nation in the YouTube chat. Stephen White says, Dak breakout year. Hey, hopefully, Stephen. Of course, we're talking about a different sort of breakout year for Dak, who's already established himself as one of the top quarterbacks among those young ones. Don't worry, I'm not going to enter the controversy on calling Dak Prescott a top quarterback in the NFL. We can have that debate later, maybe. Nicholas says, I'm late to the show. What's the question? Breakout candidates, Malik Hooker. I like Malik Hooker as an answer. I like that answer as well. Even more so because he's been that first-round prospect for a while that hasn't gotten the chance to play a lot because of the injuries. We know that. And we also sort of know that he didn't get the chance to play a lot with the Cowboys. And the Monte Casey had the most snaps at free safety. That guy is not with the Cowboys anymore. So you know that the playing time for Malik Hooker is likely to increase significantly. Ryan Doyle says, don't worry, Mo, we got your back. Anybody talking negative will be dealt with. I've reached the point, fortunately, in which it's just funny to me, and I address it in a joking fashion. But I remember at first, about in 2017, when I started making videos, it can really get to you if you let it. Toxic Tom says, sorry, I'm on the phone with my madre, says Toxic Tom. Do not worry. I know that I was surprised that you had not bragged about your Orioles beating my Yankees on a walk-off 3-run home run this morning. So at least there's that. Your mom is saving me from some trash talk, Toxic Tom. Thank you to Mark, and thank you for the support, guys. Thank you for the support as always. Let's get to some under the radar players. And by the way, I like the Malik Hooker answer. The question for you guys is, now let's talk about some under the radar players. Some guys that you feel like Cowboys Nation is maybe not talking about enough. Maybe they're not paying as much attention as they should to your guy. Who is that guy? Who's your under the radar breakout candidate for 2022? Derek goes with wide receiver TJ Vasher. And we had this conversation more or less, I believe, a night ago or 2 nights ago when we were talking about Simi Fehoko and Noah Brown battling out for wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5, depending on whether or not Michael Gallup is already back with the team. And TJ Vasher is that guy that could surprise us. I agree with Derek. That's a good answer. Ryan Knowles says Toxic Tom. Devin Harper for Gregory. I would be very surprised if Harper gets playing time as a linebacker. I wonder how much he will play on special teams, though, with John Fassel. James Washington says Michael. How amazing would it be if Washington has that season? If Washington reaches a point in which it's his first truly productive season in the NFL after years of being buried in the Steelers' depth chart and working on an offense that couldn't make the most out of his skills for going deep. Anthony Brown, says Versace. that I would be confused by that one, because I would argue that that has already sort of happened in 2021. But it's a weird one because I don't think that Cowboys fans are super confident that it will be such a solid season again, right? Jarville Cox, Dalton Schultz, Marquise Bell, says Draylon, and I know that a lot of people are rooting for Bell. Brian Angers, says Bruce got the use. Tommy goes with Jonathan Garibay. Dante Fowler for King Ken. I don't hate this answer either because, that's a guy that's also been working on a very bad unit for most of his career. At least lately. I don't know about most of his career, but at least with the Falcons, that was not a good unit. You had Grady Jarrett, down to Fowler. Other than that, it was ugly. Fowler is coming into a way better situation with the Cowboys, in which Micah and Lawrence are leading the way. You got some talent at defensive tackle for the first time in a long time, I believe. We feel this confident about the tackles. Dorrance Armstrong says, Tommy 915. Tommy says, I don't understand how you just hide a guy like TJ Basher, explosive, big, can catch the ball, great hands. I don't get it. My list would go City, Gallup, Tolbert, and Basher, says Tommy. Bohana, that's a good one as well. And he will have a heck of a battle versus John Ridgway. Mark Clark says, I have a good feeling about Washington as well. I think that Cox will have a Pro Bowl season. Ryan says, that would be cool if we had a triple fullback formation with McGovern, Ralston, and Ryan Nall. Just carry those two fullbacks on the roster so you can get those two plays in every once in a while. I love it. Carlos Watkins, says Holly. Maybe a good one. He flew a little bit under the radar in 2021, had a pretty decent season, specifically when being asked to play the one technique, even though that's not maybe his biggest strength. But Watkins could be a good answer. And every single one of the rookies, I think that we got most of them on this comment section. I didn't go with rookies, though. Remember that I said that. I made a rule for myself to not go with rookies and maybe go with some players. Now, I will agree that I cheated. I will confess to it right now, because I kind of went with two players here because they will be competing for the starting job. Tyler Viotish and Matt Farniok. When they were drafted, these were both upside kind of picks, adding some depth. We've talked about Matt Farniok and the fact that the Cowboys said that he was basically going to compete with Tyler Viotish for the starting role. And that seems to be not a faith on Tyler Viotish, more of a little bit more of support maybe for Matt Farniok, a guy that tested athletically with very high numbers, and the Cowboys were hoping to develop him. Had a great performance versus the Eagles late in the year when they were playing mostly backups. So Viotish and Farniok could be, whichever of the two, could be in for breakout years, and they will compete for the starting role. So that's always healthy. And that would be huge for the Cowboys offense. A Cowboys offense that has a big question mark at left guard, even with Tyler Smith on the team, even if he is the guy. Can Tyron Smith and Tyler Viotish hold the fort enough to help out Tyler Smith and help him mask some of the things that need some polishing, like hand usage? Whichever of those two centers, if they break out, that's huge for the Cowboys. Mo, I think that you meant to say Ryan Nall, says Toxic Tom. Whole team and the coaches break out, to Stephen White. Simi will be moved to tight end, says Derek. I know some people have played around with that possibility. Nicholas says Alec Lindstrom might beat both of them out for center. I've hesitated on that storyline. I know that I'm in the minority here, but I don't know. I am pumping the brakes a little bit with the Alec Lindstrom hype. I know that the PFF numbers are there. I know that he was a very good blocker on one aspect of the game. But also, is he truly that ready athletically to play in the NFL? I don't know. I have my doubts about the Alec Lindstrom hype. I will not lie to you. I will not lie to you. I am pumping the brakes a little bit on that front. I would be shocked if he starts at center at any point in 2022. I think that one, fans are maybe higher on Alec Lindstrom than they should be. And two, I think that the Cowboys are higher on both Biadish and Farniak over Lindstrom. That's sort of my take, and I know that I'm in the minority on this conversation, but I do believe we're a little bit too high on Lindstrom. Kellen Moore says Bruce got the use, suggesting him as a coach breakout. Could be if he puts the pieces together, man. If he puts the pieces together, and the Cowboys can be successful offensively for 17 games. I'm crossing my fingers. Michael says Jeremy Sprinkle. I don't know about that one. John Sullivan says hell to no, but I don't know if he meant, I don't know what player John was referring to here. Maybe you can catch us up. John Stanley says, go Yankees. I love ADC Sports. Let's go. John liked the fact that I'm a New York Yankee fan. So there you go. Another player under the radar, and this is maybe another controversial one. A lot of people seem to believe that he might not even make the roster. But how about Israel Mukuamu? Could he get the chance to play more in 2022? The Monte Casey is no longer with the Cowboys, so he might be one injury away to have some sort of contribution as a safety. But also, there's the versatility when it comes to Mukuamu. We know that he also can play cornerback, and his role is not set in stone. And although the Cowboys have some depth on the defensive backfield, Mukuamu might be one of those guys that provides that depth. So can he earn some sort of role on defense? I would be looking forward to that. Mukuamu had a pretty good preseason in 2021, even though we didn't get to see much from him in the regular season. He was one of the preseason standouts, actually. And we know that he has the traits that Dan Quinn likes. He is a very long player. His long arms are pretty crazy when you look at the pictures. He is tall. He is Dan Quinn's type of defensive back. And with that versatility, for a coach that has worked a lot with versatility lately, I could see Mukuamu having a bigger role with the Cowboys. So that would be my another under-the-radar breakout candidate of the year for the Dallas Cowboys. So there you go. Recapping. Jabril Cox, Kelvin Joseph, among those obvious ones. Osa Odighizuwa and Terence Steele as two other players to watch. And then under the radar, the centers and Easy Mukuamu. There you go. Let's see some of your comments here before we get out of here tonight. Thomas says we need to switch Mukuamu to corner and cut Anthony Brown or trade him. I don't think that AB is in danger of being cut or traded, nor I believe the Cowboys should do that. Listen. Last year on Primetime, during the preseason, and even after the preseason, Cowboys Nation was calling for Anthony Brown's head. And it never really made sense because that would have meant betting on Kelvin Joseph maybe without having watched him play football at all as a Dallas Cowboy. So it never really made sense. And we kind of went back to it last year. And I remember even writing an ADCsports.com article, and this is not me patting myself on the back or anything, but just making the case for Anthony Brown remaining the Cowboys starting cornerback, even after he was torched by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And it shocks me that even after such a good season in 2021, which it was, even though we have our prior biases, Cowboys Nation is still calling for Anthony Brown's head. That is something that I cannot fully understand. I don't think that's happening. Casey snaps have to go to someone, says King Ken. I agree. I agree with Mukuamu. There's some controversy with Mukuamu because Ryan says good call with Easy. He has got natural football instincts and talent and smooth coverage skills. But then Tommy says, sorry, Mo, I don't agree with you on any of these guys except Osa. So there you go. That's what I like about breakout players conversations. There's always some disagreement. I would extend AB right now, says Toxic Tom. Christopher says, a Gamecock fan here, Mukuamu is a corner. Dallas always screwing up and moving guys. We should have had Byron Jones at corner all those years. Although he did play both positions at South Carolina, to be fair, I can see them moving him to cornerback, to be honest. I don't know what will happen with Mukuamu. But if you like someone like Marquise Bell, for example, and you want him to stick around as a safety, it's difficult seeing the Cowboys carrying 5 safeties on the 53-man roster. Mukuamu can be in that sweet spot in which he is both a cornerback and a safety, maybe. Weird thing, these versatile players, because even either they find a amazing role or they get lost in the middle of stuff right there. John Sullivan says, what about Nashon Wright? Someone brought him up earlier, and I fully agree that he could also be one of those guys. My biggest question, again, with Wright is, will he get the opportunity or not to play corner? I'm looking forward to seeing the defensive backfield, says Mark Clark, improvements minus KZ and more Hooker. I think we are all excited about Malik Hooker. The fact that he could have that big season for the first time in his career with the Cowboys is certainly enticing, because we've been waiting for it ever since he got out of Ohio State and he got through Colts and all of that. We've been waiting for Malik Hooker's. Forget about being a Cowboys fan. Basically, NFL fans that follow these sort of players, we've all been waiting for Hooker at his finest. We might get to see it in 2022. I hope so. I really hope so. What is up, legends of 88? Welcome to the show. Passing league, keep all the good cornerbacks you can, says Michael. Especially when not only has it become a passing league, everyone knows that by now, but also we're reaching this defensive philosophy around the league. When we are reaching the conclusion with data and evidence that coverage can help the pass rush just as much or more than pass rush can help coverage. So building on that defensive backfield, even before the pass rush, is sort of a trend right now in the NFL in terms of team building. Mo, my guy, better upgrade that degree. Proud of you, kid. Thank you to I always laugh at this username. Thank you to I Love Weed. Is Quan Alexander still a free agent, says Chris? Is he? Not gonna lie, I would need to check because I don't remember seeing his name a lot. He is a free agent still to this date. He is a free agent. Good question by Chris. Mo, this year, who will be the Cowboy fan? Connor Williams, is Toxic Tom. In terms of penalties, probably, even though we believe in him as a long-term project, probably the guy that will take his place. Is that, if that is what you mean with the penalties, Toxic Tom, it's probably Tyler Smith. Even though it will be part of his development, and we'll be hoping that it's just part of the process. Although there are promising takes on Tyler Smith, Bobby Belt said earlier this week that his hands were consistently on the numbers this weekend instead of the shoulders. So you might be looking at some promising developments on Tyler Smith's camp. All right, guys. Without any further ado, I will let you get to your weekend because it is Thursday night, and make this weekend count, whether it's with friends, loved ones, or even by yourself. If you like to do things alone, make this weekend count. Watch your favorite movie, watch some sports. We've got the PGA Championship. We've got the Mavericks on conference finals. We've got Formula One. this weekend. Make it count. Whatever you want to do, have a fun, tremendous weekend. Catch Skywalker Steel tomorrow morning every Monday through Friday mornings at 8 a.m., 8:15 a.m. ish, in his own words, Central Time. And hit the like button. If you like the show, smash the like button. Share the stream if you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. Primetime, as always, is brought to you by our friends over at freemanhyundai.com. Check out the new 2022 Hyundai Sonata, its two front LCD monitors, and much more over at freemanhyundai.com. Thank you, guys, and I will see you Sunday night, 8 p.m. Central Time. Thank you, guys.